Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we have with us Rodrigo Fiallega. Did I pronounce that right?
That's exactly how it's pronounced.
Awesome, awesome. Rodrigo, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me, John.
Oh, it is my honor, and I'm really excited to talk to you. As I told you just before we went live, you are my first visual FX person. And man, do I have a lot of questions for you. But before we get into that, a lot of people don't really understand what does a visual effects person do when a film is done and it comes to you. What do you guys do?
Well, I think it's a bit, complicated sometimes for the people to understand it because it looks that it's some kind of magic that we do. That it's just like that they will deliver to us the material, and we do some kind of magic, and then the VFX are just done. And sometimes people, I mean, even people that work in film production, that it's in the part of the production, not in the post production. Sometimes they don't really understand how it works and what times it takes and the effort that it takes to do stuff. Because of course in the last 30 years, VFX has become very something very strong and
Prevalent.
and each year it becomes more not complicated, but something more achieved than something more special. So now at this moment, what VFX do is basically all the stuff that is not shot in real life, let's say that way, but when you want to be on the screen, you then generate it from let's say from nothing. It can be just a scar, it can be just replace a scar, it can be create a monster. There's a lot of stuff in VFX, and there's a lot of let's say divisions in VFX. There's of course the guys that make 3D stuff, the guys that makes fluids. It has become something very specialized at this point. What I used to do was something that is called compositing. That is the part when they will give you all the stuff. Let's say the stuff that was filmed in the stage or whatever, and then maybe the 3D guy will give you the renders of a monster, and then the guy with the fluids will give you all the stuff he made, and then what my work is to make it look like it's integrated in one thing and that it looks real, let's say.
Okay.
That was what I used to do. And then at some point, of course, also supervise the work of the VFX, to see that the 3D stuff was coming along with how it was shot and that kind of stuff. That was a little the stuff I was doing when I work as a VFX.
Now, VFX people also, like, if something is shot in front of a green screen, you guys fill in the green screen. Is that true or not?
Exactly. That's also part, and that's part of the compositing. I mean, well, for example, in the example I was saying, let's say that maybe there's a monster that is coming behind you. You will be shot in a green screen, so we can take the green and then let the monster be there. So that will be part of my job, to take off the green screen, and then with the renders that the 3D guy will give me, put the monster and make it look like it's really behind you.
How closely do you work with the director of the film?
When working in VFX, it depends a lot because it depends if it's a commercial, if it's a movie. But when I was working VFX, I usually will try to work a lot with the director. Because at some point, always the director will come to you to look how it looks and give you feedback about how he feels about it.
Now, you being a visual effects artist, has there ever been a movie, a commercial, or any project that you worked on that you requested to be on the set so you can get an idea of how to better put together the final product?
Yes, that's part of what it's called the VFX supervisor. That's the guy that in fact goes to the filming and will take care of the technical part of how to shoot it. For example, if we continue with the green screen example, he will say, okay, I need you to put this green screen in this part because then I will need to take it from, we don't see this part, but maybe this part is okay to not have the green screen because we will not see it. Maybe I need to put these little black pins here that will help me to track the shot if the camera is moving. That kind of things will make the VFX supervisor. And yes, I especially for commercials. For a film, I never was supervisor, but for commercials, I did supervising.
Okay. Now, I've had a lot of directors and actors tell me when they're doing like a fight scene, let's take horror movies, zombies, okay?
Yeah.
And they're holding a knife or a sword. The tip of that knife will be wrapped in green, like a green screen material. And when they're shooting it, it only goes so close to the person's head. They're like, they'll stop right here. And I'm like, okay, I understand the green screen, the tip of the knife, you fill it in. But what's always confused me, if a person is stabbing someone in the head in the movie, right, or a TV show, and they stop 6 inches short of the head, even with the green material around the knife, how do you guys make it look like that knife is actually touching the head and penetrating and the blood and all that? How does that? I mean, that blows me away.
It depends a lot. There's a lot of things. I mean, I think the amazing thing about VFX is that it's not always the same. It depends. It's always different with every project. With every shot, it's different because it depends a lot of what you really want. Because, for example, in this case, you're telling me. It could be a lot of ways to do it because the green screen, of course, will help you to make it larger, the knife, of course, so it will look then that it goes inside the head.
Okay, I didn't know that. I
And
didn't know
then
that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that you
and
can
then
make it
make
larger.
Yeah, because for example, then it's very used it's called extension. So
Okay.
for example, if in that case you want the knife to be larger, so it will look like it's on your head. You will take that real knife, and then the 3D guys will make it look like it's part of like an extension, and then the compositing guy will make it look like it's exactly the same. That it looks seamless.
Wow.
Um, but then as it goes inside, for example, of the head, you will do or either maybe the blood you will put it there in post production, or maybe what you will do is to have a head done for that purpose and do it that way. It depends a lot of how exactly the shot is and what the director in that case really wants to see and what the VFX facility is more used to do and what they think it's easier for them and better will look better for them.
Okay. Now, if somebody, wants to get into VFX, now this is, when it comes to directing, producing, school is not like necessity where you have to go to school. Now, I'm assuming when it comes to this very highly skilled job of visual effects, where did you learn how to do it? Did you go to school? Someone mentor you?
Well, to be honest, in my personal case, I didn't go to any school. I was working as an assistant director in commercials, and I used to work a lot with a director that used to like a lot VFX and will work in a lot of VFX productions. So that was the way I began to be interested in the VFX part. So what I did was just learn from myself with the softwares and tutorials and that kind of things. Um, But to be honest, I think the best way is to go to school. Maybe because when I started doing VFX about, I don't know, 15 years ago, there were not so many VFX schools and that kind of things. I think now it's a bit more common to have VFX schools and 3D schools and these kind of things. I will recommend to really do a more academic
Yeah.
studies on that, because say it's something sometimes very specialized, and it's not just knowing how the software works. That's the easy part. There's a lot of physics, a lot of optics, of mathematics. There's also that kind of scientific stuff that you also need to know and learn to really know what something should look like.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, out of all the projects that you've done VFX on, is there, I mean, I'm looking at the list and you have quite an impressive list of VFX. Like for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, you were the digital compositor, you've done some horror, you've done a little bit of everything in some pretty popular movies. Is there any
Yes.
project looking back that really was a challenge for you as a VFX guy?
Yes, I think how it's called. I just forgot I forgot the name. The movie that Angelina Jolie directed. You should have it in the list of. I forgot the name.
No, it's okay, but go on. What exactly of that movie was so challenging as a VFX artist?
Because the sequence I was working on, it was there was these guys that were left alone in the ocean. But of course, it was not shot in the middle of the ocean. It was shot in a pool, and what we needed to do was to recreate the ocean and the sky, and it was made for ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, that you must know that it's
Yeah.
the company of George Lucas, and they are very, very, very. Of course, they are the best, and they are very strict. They go pixel by pixel to check everything, and it was very challenging to do those shots because it was really complicated to working with water is complicated, and the guys were moving a lot, and I don't know, probably because of the way the production they shot it, they not always have green screen covering all the parts that to be needed to be covered, so it was a lot of rotoscoping, handmade, and it was really challenging those shots on that movie.
Yeah, yeah. Visual effects with the advance of technology. The cost. I'm using a green screen right now behind me. It's a green screen, and the technology has become a lot easier to handle, and it's cheaper as
Yes,
well. Now,
yes.
the last credit that you have as a visual effects artist is 2016, and we're going to go on to what you moved on to. Would you say you are done with the VFX part of your career and you're ready now to move on to some other stuff?
Well, to be honest, not really, because I like it a lot, the VFX. Of course, what I always wanted to be was directing, and of course now is what I'm doing. But at the end, for example, when I direct commercials, there are some times that because of the time or the budget, I end up doing some part of the VFX, or some part of the post production. And even in the last movie that I worked, that it was a horror movie, I had to make some part of the VFX because the company that was supposed to make them, they were not getting to the point of really delivering, so I had to put my hands on that part. So I think no, I think I still like it, and I will do it, probably not as before, as part for others project or other directors, but still for my stuff, and just for fun, sometimes just
You
for fun
enjoy
I
it.
try
Yeah,
to.
you enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, when something new comes on the new softwares comes and stuff, I always try and see what's going on, what's
Yeah.
what's the new stuff, and all the things. Really, I really enjoy that part.
Now, now you're directing. Would you say that all the experience that you've had in post production with visual effects has helped you immensely now being behind the camera and directing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially when there's of course projects that has some kind of VFX and that kind of things. But I think what has helped me the most is to try to do the things as simple as possible to get to where you want to get, because
And also to make it
sometimes
probably easier for the post production people since you have a lot
exactly.
of experience there.
Yeah, I mean, always in that part when of course, now when I make something that has VFX, I work with another facility or VFX studio. I always, of course, talk to them first because, as I told you, every VFX facility works in a different way and think in a different way. So I always talk to them first, how they will how they see the project, and then of course I will tell them my point of view and maybe the best way to get there, and I think they're always thankful that I can understand their language,
Yeah.
because it's easier to work, and when you are shooting it's easier for them, because I know that maybe if I put the green screen in this part and not in this part, it will be easy for the guys later, and
Yeah.
not and maybe it will take them 10 hours less to do the job, because when I was doing those VFX and you have to work with directors or in projects that they really don't know what we're doing, there's always this saying of, oh, we will solve it in post, doesn't matter. And then when it comes to you, it's like, shit, why did this,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
just have shot it this way, it will be a lot easier, but now because you do it this way, this is hell.
All right.
So since I've been doing it, I've been in the other part of the fence. Now I try to help when I'm in this part.
So let's move on to your directing. What was your directorial debut? Which full feature movie was your directing debut?
Well, I mean, I started first, of course, directing some commercials, but when talking about feature films, I just have two features. It was strange because I almost made the two of them at the same time for some strange reason. One is my first film that it's mine. I wrote it. That is called Ricochet. It's
And
a very
I mean, Ricochet. Sorry to interrupt you. It has such acclaim and nominations and wins. It's such a great movie. Congratulations on that movie, by the way. But go
oh,
on.
thank you, because I mean, if you watch it, it's a really little movie, a very arty movie, but yeah, fortunately it's doing good in the festivals, and that's really good. I'm really proud of that movie because we had very little money, very little time, and I think we did something good. And then just when I finished shooting that movie, I start filming this other movie that is, yeah, in fact, a thriller horror movie.
The
That
Exorcism of
it's
The
The Exorcism
Exorcism
of,
of
yeah,
Carmen Farias. Yes.
exactly that one. And but in that case, that was a film that I was is not, let's say, my film. I was um, put in that film by a production company. And it was strange because it was the other side of the film industry, from doing a very little personal film and doing something very commercial, bigger film. But it was really fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually messaged you the other day. I wanted to watch The Exorcism of Carmen Farias,
Yeah.
but it's not yet available here in the United States. It's available in Mexico. Was that movie filmed in Mexico?
Yeah, we shot it here in Mexico. It was just it was complicated because we shot it in, wow, we were 2021 in 2018, 19, in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of those years. But of course, then because of COVID and all this stuff, it was just delayed all the time, and it went to theaters in May.
In Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico. Now I think it's in theaters in Central and South America. I'm not sure if it's going to be in theaters in the States. I don't think so. I know it's going to be in streaming platforms.
Good.
And I hope that maybe in some horror festivals it will be nice. In fact, it's going to be in a festival in LA that is it's a film festival just for Mexican films.
Oh.
And in fact, my two films it's going to be there in that festival. It's called Hola Mexico. It's called.
Okay. Now, since it's going in the festivals, are we to assume that Carmen Farias does not have a United States distributor yet, and you're still looking for a distributor in the United States for that movie?
To be honest, I really don't know, because the thing is, since I was just contracted to be a director, I'm not part of the production company.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I talk with the production company, but this is kind of things. Sometimes I don't know how they sell it. These kind of things. I know for streaming, it's already sold for a sort of Latin films platform that is called Pantalla. But I'm not sure if it's going to be in theaters or not. I should ask the production company to make it nice to know if it's going to be in theaters. It would be great.
Now, Ricochet, which you said you wrote and you also directed, is a drama, okay? And then you have The Exorcism of Carmen Farias, which you came in to direct, which is a horror movie. Would you consider yourself a horror fan?
To be honest, and I know I should not say this in this kind of platform,
no, please.
No, I just love films. I have never make difference between genders of kind of films. I just think there's good films and films that I like and that I feel something about them and makes me think, and that's what at the end I like about films. The stuff that makes me think, that makes me feel something. If it's horror, if it's comedy, if it's drama, I really don't pay too much attention for that. I mean, there's some great horror movies that I really love. There are some that I really don't like. I think probably the problem with the last part of horror films is that they trust too much in VFX, so they forgot a lot, I think, of what they want to say. They just want to show stuff.
Yeah.
Something the same with these superhero movies. It's just
all the fancy,
but you really don't get anything at the end. I mean, they are entertaining, of course, but when you finish it, like, okay. I don't remember the movie anymore.
Exactly. For me, as a horror fan, I don't care about blood, guts, and, special VFX. Give me a good story with nice, good acting, a nice script, the way a story is told. Thriller, horror, doesn't matter. I will choose that any day of the week over watching something just for blood and guts and special effects and all that. I want a good character story, like you.
Yeah, definitely. I think what because to me, at least at the end, what horror in general as a genre of film, of literature, what it really is meant to be, it's to make you know and to make you feel what we humans fear about, and what we fear, what is inside of us. So I think good horror movies at the end, it's really about knowing yourself and about knowing your fears, about knowing what you like and you don't like. I think that's what really good horror movies are about.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
There could be a lot of blood, and there could be nothing blood, no blood at all. It doesn't matter. But good horror movies, I think it's just about that, just about what makes you fear.
Exactly. I completely 100% agree. Let's talk a little bit more about Ricochet. You wrote it, you directed it. What was your inspiration for Ricochet?
Well, it's loosely based in a real story that happened in Argentina. It's something I read in the newspaper a lot of years ago, and it just shook me a lot. So I just took this uh, little piece of reality and just use it to take it to Mexico, to the more towny parts and the rural parts of Mexico, not the city, and tell the story of these characters and these kind of people.
So, when you were writing it, walk us through how you end up getting financing for filming and getting it distributed. Did it all just fall in place with you? Did that go through the film festival circuit as well?
Well, it was weird because when I wrote it, I was living in Spain, in fact, um, and of course it was a movie that it was thought to be shot in Mexico, so it was difficult to be financed in Spain, especially for a first-time director. But at the same time, it was the time in about 8 years, 10 years ago when the European and Spanish crisis hit
Hmm.
really hard. So at the end, I think a lot of pieces came together. So I decided just to come back to Mexico, and I was really lucky because at the Film Institute, um, they gave us money first to make the development of the film, and then the next year, when we have the development of the film, they gave us a little money for the production. And
Nice.
in fact, we were supposed to be getting more money for the rest of the financing, but we didn't get it. So at the end, we had to shut with just that little money that the Mexican Film Institute gave us.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Now, what is it like, the film industry in Mexico? Is it, you said there's money I mean, there is money there for people who want to make films. How hard is it to get that money? Do you approach them with an idea, with a script? Does it take a lot of time? Overall, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, for filmmakers in Mexico, how hard is it to make a movie compared to the United States, I guess?
Okay, I think it's weird because I think they both are very different views of filmmaking because now there's a bit more of film industry here in Mexico and of commercial success of some films, but it's always been seen as more as a cultural thing. So the state will give you money for doing that because it's supposed to be part of arts and culture,
Yeah.
and then that the state should be taking care of that. It's a mix of I think we have a mix in the view of the European view of something more that way, more cultural, more arty, and then something more commercial thing like in the States that of course you will have to finance the movie all by yourself because there's no state to help
Hmm.
you with in that sense.
Yeah.
So now in Mexico, it's quite easy, let's say, to film because some of the good stuff that has happened in I think about 10 years ago, it's that there are, let's say, two ways that you can get financed by the state. One is just they will give you direct money just for the movie, especially for little movies and for more arty movies. They will give you that just that way. They will give you the money, and if you lose it, then nothing happens. If it's a huge success, great, that's amazing. But there's no commitment in that sense of to be a commercial success.
Okay.
And there's the other way that is it's something that I think really works well. That it will be the money will come from the taxes. So you will give the state your project, and they will see the projects, and they will find companies that will say, okay, I have to pay this money on taxes to the state, but this little part of the money, instead of giving it to the state, I will give it to make a film.
Okay. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
so I think it really and it works really well, and that's what has done a lot for the film industry in Mexico. That has grown a lot because, of course, for a company, it's the same. I mean, they anyway have to give the money away. But they will say, okay, instead of just giving all to the state, I can give it also to a film, and that's good also for me because I can put my name in the film also, so that's nice,
Yeah.
and it has been working good so far.
So with Ricochet, you wrote it, you got the money, production. Were you surprised at the acclaim that the movie received once it got in front of an audience?
Well, yeah, of course, because of course it's also my first movie, so I really don't know how how to confront this thing of you doing a thing and then show it to a lot of people and what they will say. I mean, probably more experienced filmmakers can know what the audience will think or what they would like. But in my case, of course, I just did it because I liked the idea, I liked the screenplay, and I like it the way it was shot. But I know it's not an easy movie because it's a slow movie. It doesn't have any kind of uh, a lot of camera movements
Hmm.
of stuff like that. But yeah, I was really happy to, especially the first festival that we got into was the Rome Film Festival.
Hmm.
That it's like of course a good and a big festival, and from that point, more festivals came, and it's been great. I mean, the only bad part of it is it was in 2020, and it was
COVID.
a bit difficult to enjoy to enjoy the festivals and to go. I mean, there's a lot of festivals that I know the movie has been there, but there's no way I could have gone because
Yeah.
there was just online festival, or there were no guests for that year. But anyway, it's been great to see that the people have liked it.
Yeah. Now, has Ricochet, you know, and all the acclaim that it's gotten, has it changed with you getting a lot more offers to direct, write? What effect has had Ricochet had on your career so far?
To be honest, so far, not really much change in terms of offers or that kind of things. Maybe I think because it's seen, of course, as a more arty film, so it's not very used that probably you will get uh, for that kind of arty film that somebody will come and tell you, oh, I have this other big
Yeah.
commercial film that I want you to direct. But the good thing is beginning to know more people of the industry and producers and decision makers and that kind of things. It's always good to be more involved in the industry.
Now, for those who want to watch Ricochet in the United States, where can they watch Ricochet if they want to?
I think at this moment there's no way to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
We are we don't have we in fact are just getting a bit of offers for distribution, one of them in the United States, but still we don't have closed any of those, so we still don't have any distribution in the United States,
Okay.
but
Well,
hopefully soon. That's our goal.
because just reading the reviews about this film and what it's about, I mean, there's two movies of yours that I'm just dying to see. And I have no doubt once Ricochet, with all the acclaim it's gotten, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure it's gonna get picked up by a distributor. And when it does, and it does hit the United States, whether it's theatrical release or go straight to streaming, it's going to be a huge success in that aspect. Now, moving forward, where do you want to do a lot more writing? Do you want to, is directing your passion moving forward? Which of the two, appeals to you the most?
Well, of course, directing, but it's weird because it's not always easy that somebody else will write something that you will like, or otherwise you pay a screenplayer with the. It's difficult that somebody will write just for free something that you would like. So at this point, what I'm doing, in fact, one of the good things of COVID was that I had time for writing. So I'm now developing two films that hopefully next year there's a way to begin to finance. But there's also, in fact, another project that is not that I didn't write. It's from a friend that we are also trying to finance. So at the end, I think the more important part for me is directing. But of course, I also like to think about what I like to direct. So sometimes I need to write it.
Yeah.
I'm not always like to write because for me it's very painful writing. It's painful and it's hard for me, but it's something I need to do. I mean,
Yeah, you're not the first person to tell that. They wish the
yeah,
script would just magically write itself and they can get straight to the directing part. Now,
yeah. I think
The
no, for me that
Exorcism.
happens a lot with writing directors that they will say that probably they suffer a lot writing, but they will need to do that to make the movie done. So
Yeah. In fact, we had Maria Gabriela Cardenas with us last Monday, and she said the exact same thing.
yeah,
Yeah, she said the exact same thing. Now, The Exorcism of Carmen Farias, as you know, there are a lot of movies out there that have The Exorcism of or
yeah,
The Possession of. So you were
yeah.
given this movie to direct, The Exorcism of Carmen Farias. What did you want to do to say there are so many movies out there with similar titles? What did you do to try to make that movie different and distinguish it from all the other movies with similar titles?
Yeah, the first thing to say is that that was not the title of the film. That was the title they put now on the film to make it more commercial. And to be honest, I really hate it for that reason
Yeah.
because it sounds that is just another movie, just another B movie of exorcism
Hmm.
because it's just a generic name for a film.
Yeah.
And I really hate it that they have changed the name to that, but that's life.
Yeah.
And talking about what I wanted to do, it's of course it was not my first approach to the genre, and I'm very respectful to the genre because I think it's very difficult. I think probably comedy and horror are the two more difficult genres because they are very specific and they have rules, very determined rules and timings and that kind of things. So I think you need to be very respectful to that. Um, but on the other hand, maybe the good thing is that, about not me being a really horror buff is that I could be I think, a bit more free about thinking how to see the things and the thing, of course, that attracted me of the film was that first of all that of course thrillers and horror movies they are very interesting for experimenting in the visual sense and in the cinematic sense. So that was something that I really like to do. And the other thing is that mostly the film is just one character in one big house. So it was a really challenge to sustain a film with just one character and one place
Hmm.
for that time. So that was the things that really attracted me to make the film.
Now, y- I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Did you do any kind of research into demonic possessions, exorcisms at all when you were approached to direct this film to give it more authenticity? What kind of preparation did you do when you got offered to direct The Exorcism of Carmen Farias?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I made some research in both ways. First of all, of course, in the film history, in the film horror history, that I think that was also important. But then also in the, let's say, real exorcism and how they look and how it feels. It was important. Also, the screenwriter wrote it because in the town he lives, there's a lot of stories about exorcism and that kind of thing. So that was his inspiration also. So of course I talked a lot with him about that kind of things to make a little of inspiration and try to figure out how to shoot the exorcism and then that kind of things.
Now, we've read I read a little bit about the background of the movie and how it's a combination of different similar stories put into one story, like by the writer Delano, by his grandmother. Are you familiar with these stories? If you are, is there anything more you can tell us about them and how these different stories were put together into one screenplay to make this single film?
Well, I mean, I think, as you know, in Mexico we have a lot of influence of the Catholic culture, and of course, all the things with exorcism and ghosts and these kind of things has to do a lot with Catholic culture and religion. So I think everybody in Mexico knows a story about a haunted house or a ghost of exorcisms. So I think that's something you live with. And in the specific case of the film, I didn't know the stories that Molo had thought for the or has experienced or known. But of course, I will talk to him, and he will of course tell me about these stories, about this about his grandmother and the house of his grandmother and these kind of things. So I think that's of course part of the inspiration and part of the cultural heritage that will influence the film anyway.
Yeah. Now, I also read that the film was actually shot in a supposedly haunted house, the location. Is that true? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a very kind of
You're
esoteric guy.
You're a skeptic.
Yeah, exactly. But it's true that it's weird because we shot in this very little town in Mexico that for some reason the main influence is English. I think there was a mine, and the English arrived when the part of the conquest and all these things, and they took and they built that town. So it's weird because it has a lot of the buildings will have a lot of influence of English influence, Victorian influence. And then this house that is a kind of Victorian house in the middle of the woods in a town in Mexico, it's really strange. So that's the first thing that you will say, this is really weird, this big Victorian house in the middle of the woods in Mexico. And then when you came in, of course, there's a very old house anyways. It's 200 years old. So yes, it has this kind of strange thing. And there was one room in particular that I really think has this very strange energy. Okay. I mean, I can tell you that I really don't believe too much in that kind of things, but it's true. I mean, nobody wanted to be alone in that room for too much time. I mean, even myself, I will come in and say, okay, nah, that's it, go out. When we were filming, it was different because there's a lot of people and movement, and that was fine. But coming in alone, it was something weird in that room. That's true.
Just a weird feel about it. How long did the shooting
Yeah,
take
exactly.
for the Exorcism of Carmen?
It was 7 weeks.
6 weeks?
7 weeks.
Wow. Compared to a lot of other horror movies, that's pretty long time. I mean, I've heard of, you know, other horror movies being done in 10, 21 days. What took 7 weeks to shoot that movie?
I think because of the preparation that the house needed and the preparation that some of the physical effects will be needed to do. And also, to be honest, because the production will give us time to work calmly. We were never running during the 7 weeks. We were working really well. We never did overtimes and that kind of thing. So I think I really appreciate that from the production, that they will give us a bit more time, because as you know, always there's rushing and you don't have always the time you wanted to do that. But in the case of this film, honestly, I'm really thankful to the production that they will give us time to do it.
And that is very rare because I've talked to a lot of American filmmakers,
Yeah,
and it's always about time and money. Do
always
it as quickly as possible, as cheaply as
cheap as
possible.
possible. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Now,
I The good part is that because there was mostly one character in one place, that part was not that too expensive, let's say, to do. So I think we could compensate with time.
yeah, yeah. Now, having worked in the United States and Mexico, do you want to continue to make movies and shooting them in Mexico? Do you want to come and do more in the United States? What are your feelings about that?
My feelings is exactly the same as with genres. In any place in the world that there's something good to be done, I'm open. I'm really open. Of course, I'm not stupid. I know that doing a movie in the United States opens you a lot of arms in the rest of the world and to the industry. That's of course something that's true, but at the end, what I'm really interested in is in good projects. They can come from Vietnam. I don't care. I mean, just that it's a good project.
Uh,
But
but
of course, I'm happy. If somebody will offer me a good project in the United States, I will be really happy about it.
how do you feel about the differences, like we just talked about here in the U.S.? I mean, it's so complicated. Production companies,
Yeah,
distributors, producers, and it's
yeah.
rushed. Do it as cheaply as possible. From what you're describing, it's a little bit more laid back in Mexico. How do you think you would react on having to do, let's say, you're offered to do a full featured film here in the United States with all the pressure, all the rushing? Do you think that would affect your ability as an artist to do the best work you can possibly do?
I think that's the toughest question, because, as you say, it's very different. Because sometimes, of course, you will say, yeah, in Mexico it's a little easier because there's a lot of films and help from the state, and that's good. But also at the same time, it's not that they will give you a lot of money. To be honest, it's very little money that they will give you, and that's also a problem, because at some point there's like a ceiling, and
Yeah,
there's no big Mexican movies, because there's something that they will just get in that top, and there's nothing to go up,
yeah.
and it's difficult also because of language, and that kind of thing. But then in the United States, of course, you will have possibly the biggest production that you can have, but then also the pressure is really big, because it comes from investment money, from
Hmm.
people that wants their money back. So the pressure is it's tough in that sense. So I really don't know. I think I have to be in that position. Probably with the horror movie, I was some kind in the middle of it, because at the end I was working for let's say a studio or another production company that of course they will put some kind of pressure to me about how the movie should look like, and of course they want to make money of the movie,
Hmm.
because not all the money was come from the state. There was also private investment in the film. So of course they want their money back. But I think the pressure will never be the same as in a big studio in the United States. That must be really tough, and I really respect the studio directors in Hollywood, because the pressure must be really tough, and there's a lot of decision makers, because of course you want the best for the film, but sometimes you are not the last one to decide stuff, not about editing, about how it's going to the name of the film, you don't decide it, for example. So it's tough. I mean, and I understand there's a lot of, for example, of big European directors that have been offered to make movies in the United States, and they have refused. For example, Almodovar, and because they don't want that pressure, and they don't want to deliver that kind of decision making to other people. They want to make decisions themselves always.
Yeah. I mean, trust
So
me,
it's tough.
I get
It's
it.
really tough.
Yeah, it is really, really tough. We're almost out of time. I just want to ask you as a final question, what's in the works for you right now? Are you currently working on anything, writing, directing? Are you about to start directing? What's in the works for you?
Uh, I'm at this point. It's been really tough year, as you know, for everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Especially in the film industry, it's been really tough in every place in the world. So at this time, at least in Mexico, it's coming to recover a little by little. I'm at this moment working on commercials. That it's mainly what give me the food on my plate every day.
Hmm.
But as I told you before, I think one of the good things about COVID was that I had the chance to write, because I could not work, I could not do anything else. So the only thing I could do was writing. And at this point, I have two films that I'm trying for next year to get them financed. As you know, filmmaking, it's something, a slow process.
Hmm.
So hopefully next year I can start financing them, and then 2 years from now I could be shooting them.
That's
At least
awesome.
one, maybe not the both of them. That's very that's very good thinking, but at least one of them I hope.
That's awesome. I hope so too. Rodrigo, thank you. This has been a fascinating hour. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sharing all your VFX information, and just enticing us even more as we wait for Ricochet and the Exorcism of Carmen Farias to be released in the United States. Hopefully, that will happen very, very soon. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. You're a very smart man. You're talented. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
Just thank you a lot for this opportunity. It's always, I think, one of the best things about filmmaking and art in general, I think, is to be able to share what you think of the world and what your thoughts about the world are. And the best part for I think for directors, at least for me, it's what other people has to say about your work. Because sometimes we think we are smart, but sometimes people is smarter. And sometimes it's happened to me that people will tell me stuff about the films that is even better or greater than what I thought the
Hmm.
film that I was doing was, and I was supposed to be the creator of the film, but no, sometimes people say best things on smarter things of your things, and you learn from that, and that's amazing, and I really, that's the thing I love. So I'm really grateful for you for inviting me and having this talk. It was a really pleasure.
It was my pleasure. And the whole thing about people giving you new insight, that's the great thing about films, and especially
Yes.
of a story that is open to interpretation, and to hear all the different ways that people interpret your writing, your work. I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
I
amazing.
love that part.
Rodrigo, thank you so much again. I want to thank all of our audience for tuning in tonight. This has been a fascinating conversation. Everybody, stay safe. And until next time, on behalf of Rodrigo and myself, stay walking. Good night.